What's going on? Brendan Miller here, bringing you the complete guide to spawn fishing for bass or sight fishing for bass. This guide pretty much covers either or, but I'll be going over four main things you're gonna want to do when you're sight fishing. First of all is equipment. Second off is hooks. Third off is jigs, and fourth is craw and creature baits that you're gonna be be throwing. Craw creature baits pretty much fall under soft plastics, but otherwise. So let's get this video started. Also, I'll have a spreadsheet on things you're going to want to think about when you're sight fishing. So this guide could also be used to think about what you're going to buy for the upcoming spring season when the bass are starting to move from the deeper water that they stayed in the winter to the more shallow water to start spawning. And so let's get this video started. So the equipment you're going to be wanting to use is, first off, you're going to need glasses. This is must-have, polarized glasses. This will really pretty much allow you to see through the water. It'll take the sun's glare right off the top of the surface of the water and allow you to see the bass that are spawning or staging onto their beds. A hat that makes the glasses job easier, and that's suggested. And any type of suntan lotion, or sunscreen. That's just if it's really hot and sunny, you don't want to get burnt. I've gotten burnt way too many times because I don't put sunscreen on because I hate it, but that's just a suggestion. Alright, the type of equipment we're going to be doing, your main equipment that is going to really affect how you're going to catch those fish is your line. You're going to be throwing a more light line, and definitely a clear line, either monofilament or fluorocarbon are the suggested lines. I use 10-pound Berkley Vanish fluorocarbon. It just gets the job done. I'm not a huge fluorocarbon fisher, but when it comes around to spawning, I definitely take out fluorocarbon. I mostly fish braid because I just like the extra strength you get in the smaller diameter. But when it comes around spawning season, the bass are going to be really finicky, and they're not going to want to bite anything if they're seeing more than just the bait. So definitely going to want to get some light line. The rod and reel doesn't really matter, whatever rod and reel you want or you prefer or whatever you use. As long as it can cast a lighter bait onto a bed, that's really the only specification you need for that. That's about all the equipment that you're going to need. You don't really have to have a boat. If you have a boat, you can get to some of the beds, a couple more beds than you might be able to get to if you are just fishing from the shore. But that's about all the equipment you're going to need. Just make sure you have glasses and make sure you have light line. Those are the only really necessary items you're going to need. And we'll get to the hooks you're going to want to use when you're sight fishing. You don't really need a huge variety of hooks. A small jig head will work as long as it doesn't have too big of a head, or a lead weight on the front, or tungsten weight on the front. This is just a little tungsten jig head. I don't really like using this jig head as much as I would prefer a EWG worm hook. But this hook is a little stouter than this hook. This hook bends a little easier, and some of the big mamas, they might spit the hook if it's too thin wire. And I've used this hook a lot, so this is a little dull, but something like this, you can use this if you prefer using jig heads. You can also use a shaky head. This is just a nail pin shaky head. This is a pretty cheap version. I don't know. I mean, you can. I don't really prefer using these. But like I said, my favorite hook to throw when it comes to sight fishing when it comes to pretty much any fishing with soft plastics is a EWG Gamakatsu EWG hook. This is a 3/0. But I either use 3/0 or 4/0. If I'm throwing something like a Pit Boss, I would use either a 3/0 or 4/0. But if I'm throwing something like a baby brush hog, I'm using a 4/0 hook just in case, because when you're sight fishing, they might have short strikes. They might just bite the end of the bait, and I don't want them only biting. Like, say they only bite up to here, I don't want to miss a fish just because the hook isn't far enough down the bait. So that's something you want to keep in mind. Make sure the bait isn't too long or too huge of a presentation, and if it is, then you might want to have a larger hook. You could even use up to a 5/0 hook, but not really recommended. But you can use a weight. I do not like to use a weight when I'm fishing whatever you call it, spawn fishing. Yeah, sorry, just lost my train of thought right there. You can use a hook, bullet weight, but make sure it's pretty small if you're going to use it, because too large of a bullet weight or a tungsten weight will make the presentation look less natural, therefore causing the fish to have second thoughts about biting. So you definitely want to think about when you're using a weight. Really only use a weight if you have to, if the bait's plastic that's made up, if it's too light, or your rod does not allow you, or reel does not allow you to cast very far with a light line or a light weighted lure. So those are just the hooks that you could use when you're sight fishing. Again, my favorite is the offset worm hook, EWG Gamakatsu. It doesn't really matter what brand, but just any EWG hook will work. And we'll move on to jigs now. I'm not a huge jig fisher guy. I don't really throw jigs that often, but sometimes if they're not biting the soft plastic, then I will definitely throw a jig, just for that bulkier presentation. Jigs mainly represent crawfish. I just have a little pit chunk trailer on here. What you can do to your trailers, if it's like this, if it's like the Pit Boss trailer, or a pit chunk they call it, if you don't want that humongous presentation, then you can cut off these two right here just to make it look like just a crawfish. But you don't have to, just if the fish are really finicky. This is a larger jig, so only throw this if you know the fish is going to bite a larger target. It's just a black and blue. This is for more stained or darker water. And if they're really finicky and they're not biting the Texas rig, I like to throw the little Strike King Bitsy Flip. And it's just bleeding Bitsy. I think it's just in the watermelon color. It's just a really small jig with a really subtle presentation, but when it hits the ground, it flares up just enough, and a little pocket crawl chunk trailer on there will really do some damage to the bass if they're really not biting. The reason why I don't like to throw this jig too often is because it's really light, and I don't really fish jigs that often. So I only throw this if I really have to. But it's just another thing you guys might want to buy if you're gonna. If your lake that you fish in, or your pond is really pressured and the bass are not really aggressive feeders or aggressive biters, then that's something you might want to buy. So now I'll move on to soft plastics and options you could use with those. Okay, so for soft plastics, it does not really matter what brand of soft plastic craw you use. This is just the Berkley Havoc Pit Boss. You don't really have to use a Berkley Havoc Pit Boss. You don't have to use a craw fatty. Just make sure it's a craw looking bait. A beaver style bait will also do. But I like the Pit Boss because it's dirt cheap, and plus it comes with a wide variety of colors. I don't know why I chose the green pumpkin green color to put in the video, but that's just the first one I found, so I just used it. But something more natural color like this craw fatty I have here. This is a really natural looking craw. Something that's really good for bed fishing. This is really the only time I use a craw fatty because it's a really fat bait in my opinion, and I don't really like throwing something with giant claws and a giant body. But this is really good on the bed because it really imitates a craw well. This is in a very natural color. It's green pumpkin red flake, and that's a really enticing color because in the clearer water, these red flakes in there really shine, and they really emit some light, and they make it look more like a craw. These claws, as you can see, are larger and are more realistic looking than the Pit Boss's claws. So it makes it look even more like a craw. And these claws are also flapped really good and have really good action on them. And these legs, a couple appendages over here. So that's a more natural looking craw. This is just a craw that emits more presentation. So those are pretty much my two categories of craw. Like the less natural looking ones that have like a smaller, thinner body and have more moving appendages, and the more lifelike craws, which I pretty much just have two flapping claws and like three legs on either side. Those are pretty much my two categories of craws. It doesn't really, like I said, it doesn't really matter what brand you prefer to use. Whatever your favorite one is, you could use that. Just make sure it's a more natural color, like your watermelons or your big Texans or your Okeechobee craws. Those colors will all do you good. So just make sure it's a natural color. And what really works in the bed, what I found, is creature baits that they kind of represent a wide variety of things. Like it has a thin body with a couple appendages on the side. 2 claw flappers like this, and like some moving grub trailers at the end, I would call them. And this is the Zoom Baby Brush Hog. This is probably my favorite. This is my favorite creature bait to throw, aside from the Berkley Power Bait, whatever they call their creature bait. I forgot, but I've used that one. I've used that one a couple of times, and I really like that one because of the scent. But the Zoom Baby Brush Hog is just a lot more available to me, so I like to buy this one a lot more than I do like to buy the Berkley's Power Hog, I think they call it. But this is the Baby Brush Hog. I think it's like a 4-inch bait in the body. I really like this bait because, not 4-inch, I'd call it 2-inch, but 4 inches total. But I really like this bait because of all the moving appendages. When it hits the ground, these things go out. These grub trailers, I call them, or tails, are always moving. These side appendages make it look enough like a lizard. So this represents a lizard, and a crawfish pretty much at the same time. So it really gets bass to bite. And what I suggest you do when you're throwing this bait, and you just have your hook right here or your jig head or whatever, when it gets to the front of the fish, a lot of times the fish will nose down on it, and all you gotta do is pop your bait. Just when it hits the ground and it's sitting there and it's starting to fall and it starts to lose interest, just pop it up, and it'll really trigger reaction strikes, because these claws will be moving, these legs will start to go crazy. So that's something you could do with pretty much any bait. When you get jig, you just pop it up really fast. If you could see them nosing down on the bait, then you can pop it real quick. I found that is really successful when I've been fishing. The fish in my lake that I've already moved up on their beds. I fish in a lake that is really oxygenated. How do you say that? Oxygenated. Excuse me. Sorry, tongue twister right there. And because it has 3 separate fountains that circulate the water real good. So that's my opinion. And plus, I live in California, and the weather's been really hot down here. So I think it's contributing factors that the fish are already starting to spawn or have already spawned. In my lake, it's real crazy. There's a lot of fish that have already spawned. There's still about half fish that are still moving up, and there's about like a 25% of fish that have already spawned and are in post-spawn feeding frenzy mode. So that's my little whatever you call it section on craws. And really quickly, I'll go on casting instructions, or my little schmiel on casting. So stay tuned. My last segment is casting and tips I have on casting. So when you cast to the bed, you're gonna want to be about 10 feet away from the actual bed. 7 feet is probably my limit, or else they start to notice you, and that's not a good thing. So definitely should stay as maximum like 5 feet away, or minimum 5 feet away, and maximum like 10 feet away, or so you're not going to see the fish. But when you make that cast, make it about 1 foot or 2 feet past the actual bed. Then when you get about half a foot away from the bed, start imparting action on that bait, making it hop and making it dance. But when you're about 3/4 or 1/4 actually into that bed, you want to stop it, let it dance, let these float up a little bit, dance it around a little bit, and when you get to the middle, pop it, let it dance a little bit, dance it around a little bit, and when they're gonna bite when you pop it, because that's gonna make them trigger a reaction strike, and that's when you're gonna get most of your strikes that I've experienced. So definitely want to do that, and and when you're dragging it past the bed, you're gonna want to definitely stop it at 3 points along the bed. That's what I figured out. Don't just let it sit too far, else they'll lose interest in it. And if you do too much on it, then they'll just notice it. It's just going to go by, so they won't really bite it. But you have to figure out what they want, but that's mainly what I figured out. So just figure out what the bass want that day, and figure out what they're striking at. So I hope this helped you new anglers learn about sight fishing, and I hope it helped a couple of veteran anglers learn a couple new things. So thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I do appreciate any comments, and if you subscribe, that'd be really helpful. I will bring out more videos and weekly fishing updates next week. So see you guys then, and please stay tuned for more videos.